Continue to follow some breaking news out of Taunton right now. A very active police crime scene there. The police have just confirmed that there have been multiple stabbings at the Silver City Galleria Mall in Taunton. That is right off of 140 and Route 24 there. And what you're looking at right there is a car that has smashed into the door right there at the Macy's at the Silver City Galleria. And of course, all of this is surrounding these multiple stabbings and reports of a shooting there as well.
All of the pieces are coming together. We've just gotten a release from state police to give you the official information we know right now. It's a crime scene that started at a home on Myrick Street in Taunton. Multiple people were stabbed by an assailant. Then they fled to the mall. Our Reed Lamberty is there on the ground. Reed, what have you been able to gather in the short time you've been there?
Ed and Maria, we have we know that this happened about 6:30, about an hour and a half ago. We spoke with people who actually witnessed the stabbings inside the Bertucci's Brick Oven Pizza restaurant, which is out here behind me here at the Silver City Mall. What the victim, or witness rather, told us is that they saw a man come out from behind in the restaurant and just randomly start slashing and stabbing people.
WCVB News Center 5 at 11 starts right now.
Breaking news, chaos erupting at a mall in Taunton.
There's a killer, there's a killer.
Shots fired, people stabbed, and a car crashing into a store.
The suspect's violent rampage.
The shoppers caught in the chaos.
And the second bloody scene discovered in this nearby neighborhood.
The deadly attacks leaving this city stunned.
Victims rushed to the hospital. The investigation just getting started.
Live team coverage of a horrific night in Taunton.
Breaking news at 11. 3 people are dead after a shooting rampage through Taunton.
Sky 5 live over the Silver City Galleria, one of 2 bloody crime scenes in the city tonight. Hello, everybody. Maria Stefanos.
And I'm Ed Harding. Several more are hurt, and an off-duty officer is being called a hero tonight. That chaos started with a car wreck on Myrick Street, and then a brutal attack inside a home. A mother and her daughter stabbed at that scene, and we have just learned that the mother, an 80-year-old woman, has died.
And then the violence spilling over to that busy mall just a couple of miles away. A pregnant woman among some of the victims there. We can tell you that one victim there was killed. Our team coverage beginning with News Center 5's Reed Lamberty live right there at the mall tonight. Reed.
And Maria, still an active crime scene here at the Silver City Galleria. In fact, 2 separate crime scenes at this mall alone. Everything here erupted at 6:30 tonight as people were settling down for dinner.
And all of a sudden people were hollering, there's a killer, there's a killer.
That frightening moment of chaos inside the Bertucci's restaurant quickly turned to carnage.
He came from the back of the restaurant and he was walking towards the front light, and as he was coming he was slashing people, and people were throwing chairs at him and stuff.
Witnesses say the man, for no apparent reason, appeared to randomly select his victims, one of whom was a pregnant woman, brutally assaulting them with a knife. Those who could, like Ruth Carvero, ran for cover.
I went to the beauty salon and I told them, there's a killer, so they all got up and we all went in the back room.
And amidst the disorder, law and order, as an off-duty sheriff's deputy who happened to be eating at the Bertucci's at that time shot the knife-wielding assailant.
A couple noises. I couldn't tell if it was a gunshot or couldn't tell. I saw people running, kids running, younger girls running.
There was just a bunch of women that just came running into the building and asked me to close my doors.
The Bertucci's was just one of 3 separate crime scenes. The first one happening at a nearby home and involved a car accident and a stabbing. The suspect then drove this car into the Macy's entrance at the mall before heading to the restaurant full with diners.
We pulled up and there was people on the stretchers getting taken out and everything, and one girl was crying for her baby.
And police and the district attorney's office have just recently announced the identity of the suspect. He is now identified as Arthur DeRosa. He is one of 3 people who was not killed tonight. He killed 2 people, and he, of course, was shot by that off-duty sheriff's deputy inside the Bertucci's restaurant. That off-duty deputy being called a hero tonight for his actions. Live in Taunton, I'm Reed Lamberty, WCVB News Center 5.
And as we said, there are 2 crime scenes. One is the mall. Let's give you a sense of where they are in relation to each other. Myrick Street is about 4 miles away from the mall, and News Center 5's Mary Saladna is there live. Mayor?
Yeah, and apparently the violence started here on Myrick Street when the suspect crashed his vehicle and then went on a deadly stabbing rampage. Here on Myrick Street, witnesses say it started as a car crash involving this red pickup. Moments later, the suspect could be seen running erratically around the neighborhood, trying to break into nearby homes.
It was kind of chaos with everything going on. Like I said, it's kind of, you go up there to tend to look like a regular accident, and it turns into be a little different. It was definitely different.
The suspect forced his way into this house. Sources tell News Center 5 he then used a kitchen knife to stab an elderly woman and her adult daughter. Neighbors watched in horror as the man raced back out of the home, knife in hand, and took off in a black sedan he apparently stole.
Definitely not in the right frame of mind.
Meanwhile, police descended upon the scene. Neighbors say paramedics were performing CPR on the elderly woman as she was rushed to the ambulance.
She's a nice lady. They're both nice.
Very nice people, great family.
And as you heard Reed say, we have confirmed now that the 80-year-old woman has died from her injuries from being stabbed in her own kitchen. Police also confirming that that attack here on Myrick Street was random. Ed and Maria.
And at this hour, we are hearing from the Bristol County District Attorney.
Yes, News Center 5's John Atwater live in Taunton with the very latest information. John.
And they just spoke here outside the police department. Maria, at this point, really motives are unclear tonight. But as we have mentioned, they have identified the suspect as a 28-year-old man who lives here in Taunton. His name, Arthur DeRosa. He, of course, went on this rampage tonight, killing 2, wounding 4 others. That suspect ran through the mall, stabbing people at Bertucci's. But as we've mentioned, there just happened to be an off-duty sheriff's deputy at that restaurant. He pulled his gun, killing the suspect, ending this rampage. Officials tonight are calling him a hero.
I'd like to thank the off-duty sheriff. If it wasn't for his heroic actions, there could have been more loss of life here this evening. I'd like to just thank all our law enforcement officers, of course, from the city of Taunton, state police and surrounding communities, and all of our first responders for their quick actions as well.
Again, so incredible that off-duty sheriff's deputy reacted so quickly, preventing an even greater tragedy tonight. And again, officials here not discussing motive as they continue their investigation tonight. We're live in Taunton. John Atwater, WCVB News Center 5.
Live Sky 5 still in the air over the entrance to the Silver City Galleria and, of course, to the Bertucci's restaurant, which is on your left. Shoppers running for their lives or running for cover during the attack.
And those shoppers talking to News Center 5's Jorge Quiroga tonight. He continues our live coverage from the mall. Jorge.
Maria, shoppers describe a violent and unprovoked sequence of events starting when a man suddenly rams a black Honda Accord into the side entrance of this Macy's. Inside Macy's, customers heard a commotion and screaming, and they started running. Reshma Norani was in the fitting room.
I came out of the fitting room and I heard like girls running and people running, screaming like there's a guy. So because, you know, we're used to like a guy entering a store, so we used to like, oh, he must be having a gun. So I ran with them.
The suspect was then seen outside the Bertucci's, a few storefronts away from Macy's.
All of a sudden he walked into Bertucci's and I saw him just start stabbing people, and there was somebody with a chair throwing at him, and there was an off-duty officer there, and he actually shot him and kept him down.
Pandemonium. Emily Higgins getting her nails done across from the Bertucci's. She saw the whole bloody scene.
He just went off and he was mad about something, we don't know what, and just started stabbing everybody, and we just didn't understand what, so we just ran and just ducked for our own safety. It's very awful. I can't get it out of my head right now. I'm shaking as we're talking, and just reliving the moment in my head as we're speaking is just mind-blowing to me, and it's very emotional and very shaken.
And as you've heard, the victims apparently all random. A horrible nightmare witnesses will never forget. Live in Taunton, Jorge Quiroga, WCVB News Center 5.
And several more people recovering from their injuries tonight. That right there is video from Morton Hospital in Taunton. A couple of miles away from the scene, you can see victims arriving there right after that attack.
All right, there's a lot of information to process at 11 o'clock tonight. Again, back live to the mall, the Silver City Galleria. You can see the Bertucci's Brick Oven Pizzeria on its left. These 2 key scenes to the events tonight. 28-year-old Arthur DeRosa of Taunton is dead. He is the suspect. 2 victims are also dead tonight. One, an 80-year-old woman. She was killed in her home on Myrick Street. 3 people in all are dead, a number of others injured as a rampage tonight in Taunton has come to a bloody and violent conclusion. a random act in Taunton, changing lives forever. Workers at the mall, families eating dinner, torn apart by a killer.
And tonight we're learning more about the victims, the heroes, and the man responsible for that deadly rampage. Among those attacked, an elderly widow, a pregnant waitress, and a beloved teacher who gave his own life trying to stop the attacker. Another hero, this off-duty sheriff's deputy who sprang into action, firing the shot that finally stopped the killer. And new tonight at 6, 5 investigates digging into the suspect's history, pointing to possible mental health problems, as his family insists he was not an animal and lashes out at the hospital for not doing more to help him. We begin our live team coverage with New Bedford. News Center 5's Jack Harper is there. He talked to the widow of the teacher who was killed. Jack.
That widow, obviously heartbreaking tonight, Heather, saying George Heath lived his life a hero, and he died yesterday the same way, a hero.
We heard the girl scream. We both turned left. We saw the girl in the guy standing next door, and we saw the knife. And then we heard her scream again. And then she started running towards me, and he had the back of her shirt and kept stabbing her. And then I grabbed the back of his shirt and tried pulling him on his back of his shirt. And my husband was struggling with him to get the knife away. And like I said, I think he went down low on him to get him around the elbow so he couldn't raise his arm up. And he pulled his arm back and then stabbed my husband in the head. I thought he got hit in the face, and then when I realized it was his head, and I knew it was really, really bad, and I did not care what happened around me or near me or anything else. I just wanted my husband to be okay. The off-duty officer came around the corner and told him to drop his weapon, and he didn't. He repeated it multiple times and then shot him.
Her husband, George, down and bleeding, Rosemary Heath, was suddenly oblivious to everything around her. She's convinced Deputy Sheriff James Creed saved her life.
I was absolutely helpless. If he didn't shoot him, I would be dead. I have no doubts about that.
They had been together since 2002, married in 2010, laughing their way through together. In a cruel heartbeat at a Bertucci's at the mall on a beautiful Tuesday night, everything changed.
What's next for you?
Breathe. Remember? Get up and figure it out as it comes. Miss my husband.
A lot of people here at Voc Tech will be missing him too. Very popular teacher, the administrators, the students, all saying what you heard from her. They're not surprised that he did what he did. In New Bedford, I'm Jack Harper, WCVB News Center 5.
In fact, Jack, let's continue that thread. George Heath was a beloved teacher. He worked as a visual design instructor at Greater New Bedford Regional Vocational Technical High School for the past 4 years.
He was a kind and passionate man and wanted to help all kids at all learning levels and learning styles.
Counselors were on hand to help students and staff try to deal with this sudden loss.
The other person killed in that rampage, an 80-year-old widow who went to church daily. She was attacked in her own home while eating dinner with her daughter. News Center 5's Todd Keskevich continues our live team coverage from her Taunton neighborhood. Todd.
Heather, this neighborhood is where Patricia Slavin lived for years. It is also where the suspect, Arthur DeRosa, was watching his child's soccer practice around this time yesterday. Investigators do not believe that the suspect and his victims knew each other until yesterday.
My grandmother died of cancer. She would come over here every day and help her. She was just a very sweet lady.
Patricia Slavin's legacy is one of compassion and self-sacrifice. She touched many lives, including her neighbors and fellow members of Holy Family Church.
One of the things that she used to do here at the parish every week, if she was physically able to do it, she'd bring communion to some of the homebound, some of the sick.
Patricia lives here at 270 Myrick Street for decades. Investigators say Arthur DeRosa picked the house at random last night. Pat and her daughter, Kathleen, were inside eating dinner.
It is unclear at this time how DeRosa gained entry to the home. Once inside the home, DeRosa stabbed both women and then ran from the residence.
Pat was pronounced dead about an hour later. She was 80 years old, raised 6 children, and is survived by grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She's a former nurse, and her pastor says she never stopped taking care of others.
She was a nurse at Cardinal Cushing. Caring for others was obviously something very dear to her heart.
Her pastor says the funeral service will likely be held next week. Her daughter, Kathleen, is in stable condition tonight in the ICU at Brigham and Women's. Reporting live in Taunton, Todd Kiskiewicz, WCVB News Center 5.
And we are learning more tonight about the off-duty hero law enforcement officer who sprang into action, putting an end to that deadly rampage. Deputy Sheriff James Creed joined the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department in 2005. He discharged a single round from his personal firearm, bringing the attack to an end. He then remained at the scene to give first aid to the victims and the suspect.
He reacted in a professional but heroic manner by taking the only course of conduct that was available to him at that time. He prevented further carnage from occurring by his actions.
And this afternoon, people were seen bringing food to Deputy Creed's home. We aren't expected to hear from him until the investigation itself is complete.
It could have been prevented. He asked for help and he wanted to help.
The family of the suspect outraged, saying a local hospital sent him home hours before that rampage. They say he did not get the help that he wanted. And it's raising questions tonight about how the mental health system works. 5 Investigates' Mike Bodette looking into that for us. Mike.
Heather, A.J. DeRosa's family says he's been depressed for months, but they never expected anything like this was possible. They are now placing blame on Morton Hospital in Taunton. Family and friends of Arthur DeRosa are stunned to learn the man they knew as AJ was released from Morton Hospital hours before the killing spree.
The ambulance picked him up at 5 p.m. on Monday. They discharged him at 4 a.m. on Tuesday. They didn't treat him for what his sickness was or his mental illness.
And now they want answers. AJ's best friend from high school telling 5 Investigates, I feel like the hospital needs to be held accountable. If he was taken care of and treated the right way, none of that would have happened.
So I'd like to think that this could be prevented. The question is how? Were not enough questions asked? What happened there in the hospital?
Dr. Karen Ruskin is a psychotherapist who says despite the unanswered questions, there are limits to what a hospital can do.
Unless a patient displays behavior and words that show with an objective account that they are suicidal or homicidal, they cannot be held in a hospital facility.
Court records show DeRosa apparently considered suicide before. In 2007, his then-girlfriend wrote that he showed up at her house and tried to harm himself. Another time in 2007, she wrote she was terrified of this man. You should be scared for your life, he allegedly threatened her once. Between 2007 and 2009, he was charged in 9 different cases in Taunton District Court. Most of the charges were dismissed, none resulting in jail time, even after pleading guilty to possession to distribute crack cocaine.
Morton could have done a little bit more or kept him there. None of this would have happened.
Morton Hospital not commenting on the concerns about DeRosa's treatment, telling 5 Investigates it cannot discuss confidential patient information. Coming up at 7, Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey weighs in what she says the state needs to do about mental health services. Mike Bodette, 5 Investigates.
Our coverage continues tonight. Stabbed in that rampage, a pregnant waitress working at Bertucci. She and her baby are both expected to survive. And News Center 5's Julie McDonald spoke to her loved ones. She's live in Taunton right now. Julie?
That's right, Ed. I spoke with her boyfriend's mom, who was really just glowing as she described what Sheena Savoy means to their family. She told me that it wasn't until after this brutal attack that this woman learned that Sheena was fighting for her own life and her baby's.
I just found out this morning I was going to be a grandmother again.
A family's joyful news shattered by tragedy. Sheena Savoy, the Taunton Bertucci's waitress, brutally stabbed at work, hadn't yet told everyone that she's expecting.
She's 8 weeks pregnant. She's in the hospital right now having surgery because her lung, the jerk stabbed her in her next to her lungs, so she's bleeding.
Savoy's expecting a baby with Martin's son, James. Just days ago, the couple took Martin out for ice cream to celebrate Mother's Day. The special outing was Sheena's idea.
Sheena makes people love her. You have to love her just by her smile.
The 26-year-old is in serious but stable condition at Rhode Island Hospital, where she was flown by medical helicopter. Martin told News Center 5 she has faith that Savoy and her grandchild will survive this dark time, but she also fears its impact on Sheena's light.
She's beautiful. And you know what they did? They probably took the most important thing. She's going to be in fear.
The restaurant where the bloody attack happened is closed today, and grief counselors will be on site for employees later this week.
We're not opening today, and it's indefinite at the moment, so we're not sure when we're reopening. Everyone's affected. Everyone's affected right now in this tragedy.
And as the family really struggles with anger and fear over what someone did to Sheena, Martin told me that they're also overwhelmed with gratitude to George Heath, who gave his own life to protect their daughter and girlfriend.